when you are relaxed and at one with the idea of this never-ending unfolding pace, rather than anxious as you are trying to make it happen faster, it speeds it along ever so much. And then you begin to do what you intended to do when you came forth. You begin to enjoy the journey. You begin to enjoy having contrast inspire a new desire within you. And you love that fresh feeling of that new desire. And then you love the sensation of recognizing that while you want it, you don't believe it, and you can feel that subtle resistance within you because you can feel you haven't clicked into place yet with your own desire. And then the sensation of masterfully recognizing that your emotions are telling you about your vibrational content, and then deliberately reaching for a thought that feels a little better and recognizing that it does, and then reaching for another thought that feels a little better and recognizing that it does, and then feeling yourself coming into alignment with your own desire at the same time that you begin to feel the sensation of the universe helping you out as symptoms or signals are beginning to show up, and you can feel it's getting closer and closer, and you can feel the sensation of the momentum of it, which you're just eating up, because deliberate creators love the hands in the clay feeling of deliberate creation. And then you recognize that things are falling into place, and you know you're in place, and now you have that sort of expectant, I know I'm on the brink of something, and so you're watching extra closely, and as you watch extra closely, all kinds of good things are showing up, and you can feel the momentum, and you know you've got your hands on the steering wheel, you're in the driver's seat, you know you are the creator of your own experience. The exhilarating feeling is beyond physical, human, verbal description, and then pop, it manifests, and you say, just like I knew it would. But boy, did I enjoy the ride. Wasn't that fun? Wasn't the clarifying process fun? Wasn't it fun to meet all of these people along the way? Don't I love creating? What's next? Oh yeah, here's this fresh new desire, unfulfilled. But now you're saying unfulfilled, not unfulfilled. Now when someone says, how's it coming along? You say, it's coming along. And they say, do you have it yet? And you say, no, it's not here yet. I'm still molding it. I still get to play with it. I'm still in the phase of putting it together. I'm still in the phase of picking out the components. I'm still deciding what I really want. I'm still in the process of really being the deliberate creator. I haven't started to play with it yet in physical form. It's all happening mentally. But oh, the sensation of this creation is life-giving to me. That's what we want you to hear, life-giving to me. Desire is life that you are summoning. And whether it has been manifest or not, it is still life. And we want you to leave here today in love with your unfulfilled desires. We'd like you to have 100 things that you want that you don't have. We'd like you to have 1,000 things that you want that you do not have. If someone says, what do you want? We'd want you to just go down the list of all of these things. And somebody not understanding would say, you poor thing. All those unfulfilled things. And you say, yeah, can you just feel how much life I have ahead of me? Can you feel how much summoning power I've got going? Can you feel how much universal force is flowing through me? Can you imagine how many things the universe is orchestrating on my behalf? Can you imagine how alive I feel? Can you imagine how I feel when I wake up every morning knowing that all of this is being orchestrated on my behalf? Do you know how many fairies of the universe are assisting me today? We are eager to talk with you about anything that is important to you.
Hi, thanks for being here. I feel like I'm piggybacking on the intro. I felt like I was talking just to me. And in the last year, it just seemed like everything went wrong, I guess, law of attraction. And
everything?
It was like, finances.
Wait, everything?
Well, I guess not everything.
Then why torture us with that word?
I don't know. Seeing if you're paying attention.
We always do, and so does the universe. In other words, why amplify the part of your life that you don't want? Why not make it lean the other way?
That's my question. I've been listening to the Abraham tapes for 7 years, and I totally believe in this.
Well, let us rephrase this in another way. In other words, we can understand how you might not get there instantly, but what we want you to ask yourself is, why am I emphasizing what I don't want? Why not make the best of something rather than the worst of something? And we can give you the answer in terms of vibration, because we know that when things are happening and you're observing them, that a momentum gets going and it is harder. We're not saying, why didn't you do it? We're saying, why don't you now try to make the effort? And so we just thought that was a good place to start. It's softer to say, instead of everything's going wrong, which is not true and you know it, some things have been going wrong. And even if you said most everything is going wrong, that's not even true. Some things that I care about are not going the way that I want to. That's a better statement than everything's going wrong.
That's it. I guess the things that
a few things have been going wrong. Some of the things that I've been wanting aren't going the way I want them to go. And some of the things have been going the way I want them to go. And I'm not interested in telling you about anything that's going well. I'd rather tell you about what's not going well, because there's not really a good story in what's working. The good story is in what's not working. And I'm better at telling the story about what's not working because I've practiced that story ever so much more. I have funny ways of telling it, funny ways that I learned from my mother, that she learned from her mother, and things that I've seen on television. And I have this sort of comedy routine I do about all of the things that are going wrong. So that's the drum I just like to beat. We're not picking on you. You are a good representative of so many people who are just so used to telling a story one way as if you're not thinking about there being some alternatives. So we'll talk about anything that you want to, but before we do, we would like you to tell us about a couple of things that have been going well.
I feel like I have connected with some desires, and was chosen last week to be finalist in this Create Your Dream. I don't know if it's a competition or whatever, and you win some free coaching to help you manifest your dream. And
what else? Things that are going well.
I guess it's like I feel everything that's going well right now. There's this, but what's going to happen next? Because I'm at this
spot. Are we not being clear?
No. Yes.
It's all right. You're doing a very good job of demonstrating that when you're in a place, that's all you have access to. And you, for some reason, you keep thinking that we're asking you what's gone wrong. And what we're asking you is, we know that there are some things going well. What are some? You're doing just fine. What you're pointing out in a very apparent fashion is what we said earlier, that when you're vibrating here, you don't have access to these thoughts over here. In other words, you just can't find them. You know what we're reaching for, and you know that you ought to be able to, but you don't have access. It's like your mind is blank about anything that's over here, but it's easy to talk about what's over here. Pretty normal, isn't it? In other words, that's what law of attraction is doing for you and doing to you. In other words, you've got vibrational access to this stuff, and Abraham is demanding this stuff from you. And we are sort of asking an impossible thing. You can't find it. So what you want to do is start where you are and start talking about whatever it is that's on your mind. And we're going to show you how to move it gently to a better feeling place. So begin.
Okay. In June, I was diagnosed with depression and put on medication. And I felt better, and I started exercising and eating right also. And I'm wondering, why did I have to get to that spot when I know I have these tools?
Because law of attraction is very powerful. And the first thing you want to do is stop beating up on yourself. But you are giving us the perfect example to explain something that we really want to explain about this vibrational range. And we really want you to hear us when we say that you can't get from depression all the way over to feeling wonderful all at once. It's a step-by-step process. And what we've noticed is so often when somebody knows they're depressed, and of course they don't want to be, and the more depressed you are, the more you want to be joyful, especially when you are like you and you've tasted that joy. You know the difference and you desperately want to feel better. What happens so often is as you go for treatment and you are feeling very depressed, almost everyone who is wanting to help you to get over into this better feeling place just sort of amplifies and helps you beat the drum of where you are, which just exacerbates the problem. And so what you begin to notice is that sometimes being very depressed, which is a sort of suffocating, I can't get enough air feeling, sometimes it's better to just get mad about something than it is to be depressed, because feeling anger about it does feel better than being depressed. Now, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel better to just be mad? If you turn your attention towards something that makes you angry, isn't it a relief from the depression? Now, there are many who would say, but anger's not good. Now, you shouldn't be angry. Let me treat you for your anger, and now you're just depressed. Because what we're wanting you to hear is that range or that trip from depression to anger was following the path of least resistance. It was steps in the right direction. And if you don't stop in your anger and beat up on yourself for not having gotten all the way to ecstasy, and instead you say, oh, well, I do feel better, and I'm grateful for this creep that I'm mad at because it has distracted me from the depression that was so suffocating, and I'll take anger. Who else can I be mad at? Let me get out my address book. This is actually life-giving. Yep, I don't like him either, and I don't like him either, and I don't like him either. In other words, you can tell that you are on the path to feeling better. And nobody else gets to tell you how well you're doing, because nobody else knew how it felt for you to be depressed to begin with. Nobody else knew. Nobody else can know what words or thoughts are going to make you feel better. Now, you could have somebody in your life, like parents often are with children, where you are distracted from whatever it is and a little breath of fresh air seeps in. But there's something so powerful about you deliberately making the decision that today I'm going to be mad all day instead of depressed. Because mad is an improvement over depression. And so you just go and you just make as much trouble for as many people as you can. Is actually kind of satisfying and humorous. You're starting to get a feeling of your own power back. It felt a lot better. Now, some Abraham smart aleck is going to see you somewhere in the grocery store angry like that and is going to want to coach you into being all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and just punch their lights out. Because they don't know. They don't know what your path of least resistance is. Only you know what it is. And only you know that you feel so much better than you feel yesterday, that you're on the road to progress. And it doesn't matter, because you're not trying to compare yourself with anybody else. Your path of least resistance does not have anything to do with anybody but you and your feelings. So now you're mad, and you've got pretty good at being mad. In fact, you've practiced it for a while because it was such a reprieve from the depression that you felt. But now you're starting to feel a little tired of being mad all the time, and now you're reaching for something that's softer than being angry. Well, you're not going to go for forgiveness. You can't get to forgiveness from being mad at them all. That's just asking for trouble for yourself. In other words, what you're reaching for is just a thought that feels better than this anger. And what we've noticed as we've watched so many of you is that you can go from anger to finding humor in something where you can't go from depression to finding humor in something. So now you're in a much better place to use some of your other tools. In other words, you might find a walk give you some relief. You could get from anger into joy in an hour walk. Mm-hmm. You could get from depression into joy in an hour walk, but almost no one does, because when you're depressed, you're sort of regurgitating all of that more. So then from your place of feeling angry, which you have much more of a vibrational range from that than you did in depression. Now you start reaching for thoughts of aggravation and irritation, in other words, and you find people that you're less angry at to focus on. And you don't start with yourself, because you're usually really mad at yourself. In other words, in this anger phase, this is not a time to deal with any issues. You're just trying to shake the anger a little bit, and usually some distraction. That's a good time to go to a movie. It's a good time to read a book, or to take a walk, or to meditate, or to go swimming, or to do something that sort of distracts you, because now you've been consciously aware of the difference that you deliberately induced between depression and anger. Now the next step between anger and lightheartedness will be a much easier step, because you are in more conscious creative control. And so you'll get a whiff of fresh air, something that will happen that will just make you laugh. And as you laugh hard at something, often that's enough to make the transition completely for you.